For the last number of weeks, we've been going through Matthew chapter 22, where he is talking to the Pharisees, even back to chapter 21, dealing with the questions of authority. Who has the right to speak? Why does Jesus get to say what he does? And beginning now in chapter 23, Jesus is turning to the crowds that are there and addressing them for the first time. And he's got a doozy of a message for those of us in leadership. We need to really listen to what he's saying because he's not talking about earthly leadership the way it is so often done in a structured, a tiered society. He's talking about how the Pharisees do it wrong when they lord over, and how we should aim to do it equal, but the best leadership is from below. I don't know if you've ever seen the cartoon. It goes along around social media every now and again, and it's boss versus leader, and it has a group of people pulling this cart. And in the boss picture, it is the boss sitting on top in a chair with a whip in his hand, and that's the definition of boss. Whereas leadership, it has the same person, only this time out front of the team, helping pull it along. He's the first one pulling to get this massive cart moving. And that's the definite difference between a boss and a leader. Far too often, we live in a world full of bosses. And we like that world, as long as we're on top. We like being in power. There is something about walking into a room and getting everybody looking at you or acknowledging you're there. It's human instinct. It's natural for us. And living in a patriarchy where there's a definite structure to our society, it's very easy to see how those who have the power want to keep the power, and they do not want to share that power. It's why so many efforts to change society, to make society more equal, often fail, because those who are fighting against the powerful run out of steam, energy, they age, they have a hard time getting more people on board for what seems to be a fruitless fight. And those who are on top are just content to kind of throw niceties down at everybody else, but do everything they can to maintain their position. Look at any bureaucracy, and that's exactly what you're going to see. Those who are very comfortable are not in the least bit interested in making their places uncomfortable. Jesus calls us to be different. So he starts out talking about the Pharisees because that's the people he has just been arguing with for the better part of 2 chapters, probably a couple of days, although it could have been 1 day. And he says, don't be like them. They like to walk around town. They like to get called rabbi and master and my Lord, and all these fancy titles. They want people bowing to them, and they want all of this respect and all of this awe shown to them. They want to go into the temple and sit on the throne of Moses, which no one is exactly sure what that is because Moses never had a throne. But the best example, the best understanding we can get is a metaphor for sitting in judgment, passing judgment over everybody else. So they want that authority. They want to be able to walk into the temple or any synagogue and immediately get the best seats and get the best food in the house and go in banquets and get the seats that are right up front. They want all the fine things in life, got all that attention shown to them. And Jesus says, don't be like them, because all they do is add more burden to the average person. And he's talking in the temple, so a lot of this has to come down to worship practice as well. All these various things that the peoples were putting on, that they had to do, all these rituals they had to do, all these expectations they had to do in order to be part of a recognized prayerful community at work and at worship. And Jesus is saying bull to all of it, that is not the point. That is not what's being expected. These Pharisees and the rest of them are putting what Jesus says yokes, not a word that we hear a lot today, but essentially burdening their shoulders with all of these really, really heavy restrictions, while the Pharisees walk away without doing any of that. They don't do the work. They just want the glory. And Jesus says very profoundly, don't be those kind of leaders. Now, it does not take us long to find examples of that. If we have been involved with any organization, any volunteer or employed organization, there's a definite pecking order. Even if the organization pretends to be egalitarian, there are some people that get more attention than others. I've been in the situation where I've gotten attention, and I can tell you, I like it. I like people who say, oh, there she is. I like people who say, oh, I've heard of you. I like people who say, well, you're known as someone who, fill in the blank. It's a very seductive place to be. And Jesus knows that. Jesus knew that. Jesus got a lot of that same attention. But he said there's something else we have to strive for, something else we have to look for. Treating people like equal. When you are called to be a leader, it is not the title, it is the work. And Jesus says, do the work. Don't get caught up in the glory. Do the work. Be the person who puts in the time. Be worthy of given that responsibility. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, you will have a much better team as a leader if you put yourself on the bottom. I remember years ago, I was leading this international thing, and everybody was asked to write their org charts. I've told this story in the past. Everybody was told to put in their organizational charts, all of those who had high leadership, top leadership levels. And I put mine in with me on the bottom. And it got so much reaction. It was even redrawn for a few people, but that's not what I wanted. I gave them an organizational chart where I was on the bottom. The next rung of leaders were the next group on the bottom. All of our volunteers were higher up the chart than we were. It profoundly upset people who saw power as prestige. Didn't bother me in the least. In fact, I would often go around telling people that I have all these people who know what they're doing. The only job I have is to keep this group moving. That is it. I am not the expert. I am the person that keeps the experts happy. And that is what leadership is. It is keeping the people motivated and working together and learning together and being together to make it better for even more people. Jesus said it's not good enough to just go for equal. We need to serve from beneath. Those who get exalted, those who want the glory, those who want the prize and the position, the servants, the honors, they're going to fall. They will be humbled, possibly publicly, although not guaranteed, but they will topple down from that top of the mountain because no one can stay up there for that long. The place to be is humbling yourself in leadership. Don't act like you are more important. When I go into a room and I am there as the sole academic, as the person who probably knows more about the topic than anybody else in the room, it is not my job to lord that over others, just because I have the privilege of an education and the time and the interest to pursue it. Because there's a lot of smart people in these rooms that I go into. I just happen to be the only one in my field. It is not my job, it is not my place to tell anybody that I know more. It is my place, however, to help the people in those rooms connect with what I have to tell them. That's my role. That is my place. And when I leave, it's up to them to continue on. My leadership is a temporary thing. All of us in leadership are in temporary positions. The movements, the changes, what we want to see happen as a community, as a world, even as leaders, that is what really matters. We are part of something bigger. We are not the focus. We are the servants, helping everybody get the tools they need to continue on and do what they need to do. If we are in this for prestige, we are in the wrong place. Leadership is work, and it's lifting others up. And Jesus said that is who we are supposed to be as leaders.